Hi, my name is Camille Santerre, and today I will be talking to you how to assess hoof cracks in horses. But first, let's start by defining what are hoof cracks. There are a wide range of different cracks, from the slight imperfection to a lame horse. And there is actually 5 types of cracks, from the grass crack to the quarter cracks. So when we start thinking about horse hoof cracks, we might overlook at it simply because it might seem like such a minor detail or a slight imperfection on the hoof. But these can actually cause laminitis if at the proper places on the hoof. So it really is to take in consideration, and it's not a slight issue, obviously. There are many different aspects that come into the causation of hoof cracks. First, the level of activity of that horse. A very active horse compared to a pasture horse has a very different level of impacts on those hoofs, and obviously will increase that level of cracks and that type of issue on their hoofs. So it is really important to think about it if you are in the sporting industry or like racing horse, jumpers, or anything like that, because obviously these horses have high impacts and this over a long period of time on those hoofs. So it really is to take in consideration, especially thinking about the standardbred racehorse that is the most likely to get hoof cracks, mentioned by Selnow in his article in 2001. So really, if you are in this industry, you might want to really understand what you can do to prevent those issues, and this I can tell you a bit more throughout this presentation. I hope so. So second, here we have the environment. A good humid environment can actually help to reduce this problem, but then a very humid environment is not good either, because a very humid environment can actually soften that component of the hoof, and then there will be more prone to those cracks. So it really is to find a good balance in between humid and dry. There is a study that showed that horses that had their hoofs cleaned in water daily and had time in muddy pasture had less cracked hoofs than horses led in stalls and using an hydrating paste daily. So once again, it really is finding that good balance, knowing what's good for your horses, obviously. Excuse me. Thirdly, here we have the nutrition. So adding high methionine percentage in your feeds of your horse that can actually be found in hoof supplements is really important, because it will actually strengthen that hoof, and then of course it will be less cracks. So here, when we talk about strengthening and making that hoof stronger, we think about the keratin levels, because this level of keratin in the composition of the hoofs has a lot to do in the resistance of the hoofs against cracking. More specifically, about the amount of alpha keratin has an impact on the intermediate filaments, or IFs that we can call, composition, as well as the structural stiffness of the horse hoof. So, and this is mentioned by Gatsby and Gosselin in their experiment titled Micromechanics of the Equine Hoof Wall, Optimizing Crack Control and Material Stiffness Through Modulation of the Properties of Keratin. So this component is very important. So the stronger it is, the stronger the intermediate filaments will be, and then the stronger the hoof is. So then it will be harder for those cracks to actually propagate along the vertical or horizontal axis. And if you look here on the slide, you can really see that those little inner filaments are in the tubules. So it really strengthens. So the stronger you can make it, the stronger your hoof will be at the wall here. So finally, when assessing hoof cracks, there's a new way to approach it, and this is the ANN system. The definition of ANN, obviously, is the artificial neural network. It really might seem like a hard concept to understand at first, but once you understand it, it's actually very useful in determining if your horse is prone to this issue or not. It's actually a computerized formulation of equations that they will put all their inputs, like characteristic of your horse or like the level of activities. That's what they did in this research from Swarovski, Tremblay, Koch, and Thompson. So they computerize all their inputs here. If you look at the table, they use varied data to determine the correlation or strength of the relationships between these inputs and outputs. And here when we talk about inputs, we talk about the horse characteristic, the horse level of activities that you can see on this table, and then outputs obviously is the hoof cracks. So there really is a correlation between these two, and that's what they determine with the correlation between the small data that they've collected. They found valuable results that could apply to other horses. So in other words, it's really useful to owners as a tool in assessing hoof cracks. So when we think about those race horse, if you want to know if that horse is actually going to be more prone to this issue, you might want to check really carefully at the conformation and stuff like that, and then look at the table and see if really you should put your money or not on this horse. So in conclusion, there are multiple facets that can be taken in place to prevent the suffering of horses from a detrimental hoof cracks. First, we need to take in consideration the system management of where our horses will be staying in, obviously. So then we think about nutrition, the level of activities of those horses, and the ANN assessment. That can be really useful to understanding how your horse might have hoof cracks and how to eliminate maybe that problem. So we have learned that hoof cracks are serious and nothing can be taken lightly, because we know that a horse with a hoof problem is as good as a dead horse. So I hope that you've learned something from this presentation, and you can assess now more precisely on how to determine if your horse has a hoof crack or not and how to eliminate that problem. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for listening.